This is my National History Day project for my 8th grade social studies class. My teacher is Mr. McCubbin, and our theme is turning points in history. This is taking place of our quarter to quarterly, and I'm doing second wave feminism. Thesis statement. American women fought for reproductive, workforce, and basic rights from the 1960s to 70s all over the USA. Women did this because they simply wanted equal rights. This showed its importance as women in this movement began to shine light on other issues not previously talked about in the first wave. It was a turning point because people introduced new thought, such as origins of women's oppression and women's roles in family. What is feminism? What is a feminist? Feminism in the United States is defined as the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. A feminist in the United States is defined as anyone who is an advocate for women's rights and supports women. First wave versus second wave feminism, explanation, extra details, and effects. First wave feminism, 1848 to 1920, was a movement solely focused on protesting women's lack of legal rights. An example of early stages of feminism exists as the first Women's Rights Convention held in St. Falls, New York. The result of this convention was a list of demands titled the Declaration of Sentiments. First wave feminism was fulfilled of its main principle on paper on August 18, 1920, when the 19th Amendment was ratified and granted women the right to vote. Second wave feminism, 1960s through 70s, was a movement protesting every aspect of women's experience. Second wave feminism is arguably started by Betty Friedan in 1963 with the publishment of her book, The Feminine Mystique. Second wave gained political strength as National Women's Political Caucus, NWPC, created in 1971. During second wave feminism, the Equal Pay Act was passed and Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade decision was made regarding reproductive freedom. Historical climate. The 1960s social climate forecasted the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and John F. Kennedy's presidency promising new frontier showers. Also, in 1968, Coretta Scott King expands the Civil Rights Movement to include the Women's Rights Movement. Meanwhile, the 1970s social climate forecasted a Soviet Union invasion of Afghanistan, Richard Nixon's resignation amid the Watergate scandal, and the Iranian hostage crisis. Additionally, the 1960s economic climate forecasted a minimum wage growth of 25 cents, the Tax Reduction Acts, and Medicare/Medicaid creation. The 1970s economic climate forecasted inflation, hurricanes, and recession floods due to the war-era Vietnam. Women's current depiction in media was of happy homemakers, secretaries, teachers, etc. And if a woman wasn't married, they were depicted as unattractive and unfortunate. But pop culture ignored that all women did not fit this depiction, which led to the start of second wave feminism as women wanted to destroy that belief. Key influencers of second wave feminism. Simone de Beauvoir, 1908 to 1986, was a French writer and philosopher. She published the book The Second Sex in 1953, which set the tone for second wave feminism. In her book, she asks the question, what is a woman? Ultimately coming to the conclusion one is not born, but becomes a woman. Betty Friedan, 1921 to 2006, was an American writer and activist. She built off Beauvoir's book by releasing her own, The Feminine Mystique, in 1963, which employed philosophical thought of feminism, like previously mentioned. Robin Morgan, 1941, is an American writer and poet. Her 1970 anthology, Sisterhood is Powerful, has been credited in helping start the contemporary feminist movement. Also, during John F. Kennedy's presidency, the federal government released Presidential Commission on the Status of Women, which concluded that women did experience discrimination. Betty Friedan continued. Betty Friedan, 1921 to 2006, wrote The Feminine Mystique in 1963. A short summary, women are feeling unfulfilled in their lives. Friedan wrote this book after circulating a questionnaire with her former classmates, conducting interviews with other women, and talking with psychologists about her findings. Friedan is/was very important to the second wave feminism movement as she co-founded the National Organization for Women, NOW, in 1966, which is dedicated to achieving equal opportunity for women. While she was president of NOW, she championed for greater representation of women in government, for child care centers, specifically for working mothers, legalized abortions, and many other reforms. Friedan's work in organizations were turning points as she gave voice to women and fought for true equality. As the women's movement progressed and more diverse voices came to light, some feminists began to criticize her, claiming her issues were only focused on white, middle-class, educated, and heterosexual women. Frieden also got criticism for referring to lesbian women as Lavender Menace and her willingness to cooperate with men, but her work resonated and appealed to many women as she spoke to them as they were unhappy with their idyllic life. Major events in second wave feminism. 1960, in Void, the first birth control pill is available to the public. 1966, Frieden co-founds Now. 1968, Coretta Scott King assumes leadership of the civil rights movement and expands the platform to include the women's rights movement. August 26, 1970, New York City's demonstration of 50,000 women demanding equal rights, child care, and the right to abortion. 1971, creation of Women's National Abortion Action Coalition, WONAAC, and creation of National Women's Political Caucus, NWPC. And 1973, Roe v. Wade, the case ensuring women's rights to a safe and legal abortion. Allies, in between, and enemies. The civil rights movement is considered an ally. The civil rights movement was active around the same time as second wave feminism. Starting in Montgomery, Alabama in the 1950s, civil rights was a movement protesting black racial oppression. The gay rights movement is considered an ally. The gay rights movement, starting briefly after second wave feminism, started in Greenwich Village, Manhattan, New York City in 1965. It was a movement protesting equal rights for LGBTQ people. In between. Womanist/womanism is a gray area. Womanist, the term, was coined by Alice Walker in her 1981 short story, You Can't Keep a Good Woman Down. The term came at a pivotal time as the feminist movement was beginning to crack under its criticism of its exclusion and alienation of women of color. In an interview by the New York Times in 1984 about the term, Alice said, "I just like to have words that describe me correctly. Now to me, black feminist does not do that." And womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. Womanism was also very popular among black women. Enemies. Formative feminism and feminists is defined as anyone who engages with feminism on a superficial basis or only when it benefits the feminist. Formative feminism and white feminism are sometimes used interchangeably. A swerve stands for sex worker exclusionary radical feminist. The term first came into use online in 2013 and serves to extend their radical feminism support to all women except for sex workers, as they believe sex work inevitably objectifies and oppresses women. A TERF stands for trans-exclusionary radical feminist. The term TERF first came into use online in 2008 and TERFs extend their radical feminism support to all women except for trans women because they believe trans women are still men and men can't coexist with feminist ideologies. How do men feel about feminism? Despite the growing presence of men in feminist spaces, the majority of men in the U.S. still view feminism as polarizing and outdated. Only 40% of U.S. men identify as feminists, and of the 40%, one-third express their contemporary feminist goals would come at the expense of their own rights. While second wave feminism was active, men sparked their own movement, Men's Liberation Movement, MLM. MLM, taking place in the 1970s, was a movement protesting social restraints by society placed on men. Other points MLM was arguing was 1, the deconstruction of the traditional male gender role, and 2, since both male and female gender roles were harmful, men were equally oppressed as women. Contrary to popular belief, Men's Liberation Movement and Men's Rights Movement, MRM, are different things. MLM is confronting social restraints by society placed on men by previously mentioned and negative aspects of traditional masculinity, while MRM is confronting unfair and unequal treatment of men by modern institutions. After MLM came Myopathic Men's Movement, MMM. MMM, starting in the 1980s through 90s, was a combination of self-help workshops, therapeutic workshops, and retreats for men led by various organizations and authors. Other men who didn't join any movements mentioned before, created their own. In 1982, a group of Massachusetts men founded the Men's Resource Center, MRC, which was one of the first pro-feminist men's centers in North America. MRC emerged in response to the growth of anti-feminist men's rights organizations in the 1970s. One of MRC's works was promoting positive masculinity and anti-violent relationships. Results of second wave feminism. Feminism has provided Western women with increased educational opportunities, the right to vote, protection against workplace discrimination, and make personal decisions about pregnancy. Some specific examples of results are previously mentioned in Void, the first birth control pill approved by the FDA in 1960, Roe v. Wade, in 1973, as well as Title 11, I think, in 1972, which states no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity referring federal financial assistance. With the rise of second wave feminism, also emerged the gay rights movement in the late 1960s, which many feminists also supported. Second wave feminism was not only beneficial towards women, but other groups affiliated. Second wave feminism made real change in the Western world to this day. What about feminism now? Intersexual feminism, a term coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, an American law professor. Intersectional feminism, Crenshaw defined as a prism for seeing the way in which various forms of inequality often operate together. Many younger women don't consider themselves feminists because they believe the term only represents women active in second wave feminism. Third wave feminism, TWF, basic values are well integrated into society and culture, thus nonconformity to those values is characterized as unacceptable, even by people who shun the label feminist. Third wave feminism, led by Gen Xers in the mid 1990s, which some were even raised by second wavers. Third wave feminism was made possible due to the social and political accomplishments of the second wave. An organization founded under third wave feminism was Third Wave Direction Action Corporation, TWDAC, in 1992, changed to Third Wave Foundation in 1997. Third Wave Foundation's mission statement is as follows: dedication to supporting groups and individuals working together towards gender, racial, economic, and social justice. Third Wave feminists fought issues with grassroots activism and racial democracy, rather than being part of the machine, sabotaging and building a new machine. Criticisms of third wave feminism. Some writers declare themselves post-feminists, arguing feminism lived beyond usefulness. Also, the overall question: is wearing revealing clothing, walking in stiletto heels, and pole dancing true forms of liberation or just old oppression in disguise? Fourth wave feminism, FWF, arguably starting in 2012, FWF focused on sexual harassment, body shaming, and rape culture. Second, social media was a key component to highlight and address concerns. An impacting moment of FWF was the Me Too movement, launched in 2006 to assist survivors of sexual violence, especially women of color. How is this all a turning point? Despite criticism, second wave feminism was a very powerful and inspiring movement. Second wave feminism lived a very serviceable life, providing women with many social and legal changes. Second wave feminism legal accomplishments: avoid Roe v. Wade, Formation of Now, Equal Pay Act, Title 11, and many more. As brought up before, second wave feminism was a turning point as it provoked discussion about origins of women's oppression and nature of gender/gender roles. In summarization, second wave feminism was a meaningful moment of solidarity among various women. And this is just my MLA citing slide. No transition. It's boring. It's white. It's blue. Some of them aren't all MLA citations. Some of them are links because I just got my information from websites. I'm probably going to get some points off because I didn't cite it on the slide, but no one has time for that. I want to make it look a certain way. So, yeah, that's all. We're done. I'm really happy about this. I put a lot of work into it, and I got it all done before the due date, so I'm really happy. That's all. Bye.